Thank you for joining us today for the workshop, Transition from School to Adult Life. My name is Rochelle Thompson, and I am a parent consultant with the Utah Parent Center. I work exclusively with parents within the Charter School Coalition. These are the 5 charter schools that are part of the coalition. If your child attends one of those charter schools, please feel free to reach out to me for any needs or any questions. I would love to help you. A simple definition of transition is change. It is passage from one state to another. Just think about the transitions that your youth has already experienced. The transition to start school, the transition to go to middle school, and the transition to go on to high school. The transitions can feel harder and more worrisome the older the student is, but knowledge is power. I hope that this workshop will help ease some of the concerns of this big next step in life. Tonight, we'll be talking about the transition IEP, who the key members of that transition IEP team would be, and the benefits of student-led IEP meetings. We will also address the age of majority, graduation options, and what aging out of services means for your student. And we'll talk about your child becoming an adult and the resources that are available for when this time comes. Why even have transition IEPs? The purpose of the transition IEP team meeting is to consider the post-secondary goals and transition services needed for the student. Post-secondary goals are measurable outcomes that occur after the student leaves the school system. Transition services and planning were created to increase the quality of life for young adults with disabilities. Today, transition from school to adult life is more than just a nice idea. It's now actually a requirement of the law. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, requires that transition services be included in every transition-aged student IEP. Classes count towards graduation starting in 9th grade. Utah law requires transition planning to be included in the student's IEP starting at least by age 14. Some students fall on the border between whether graduating with a high school diploma or earning a certificate of completion would be the most appropriate. Identifying the correct path early on is helpful and may require talking about transition even before the actual transition IEP is developed. If, as a parent, you are unsure as to the direction your child should take, you can initiate the conversation with the IEP team and explore the options together. We'll be talking more about the options later on in the presentation. The foundation of the plan needs to be a coordinated effort between the student, the parents, the school, and oftentimes adult service providers to achieve a desirable future for the student. The focus should always be on the young adult's vision of their future. This coordinated set of activities needs to be based on the individual student's needs, taking into account the student's strengths, preferences, and interests, and needs to include certain things. One of those things is instruction. When choosing the classes, the IEP team should determine if any modifications are needed. Related services needs to be addressed if they are needed, as well as community experiences. The transition IEP should also include the development of employment and other post-secondary adult living objectives, and the acquisition of daily living skills if appropriate. The school can also provide a functional vocational evaluation which aims to identify the student's career interests as well as work-related aptitudes. If a representative of any participating agency that might be providing or paying for any transition services was invited to the IEP team meeting, the IEP needs to include evidence that that person was invited. The piece of evidence that would be written consent of the parent or adult student that was obtained prior to the IEP team meeting. Such agencies might include vocational rehabilitation, which is oftentimes referred to as voc rehab, and it's a division of the Utah State Office of Rehabilitation. They service individuals 14 to 24, or the Division of Services for People with Disabilities, also known as DSPD, may attend. Parents or adult students may invite an agency representative to the IEP team meeting without signed consent, but just make sure that you let the team know ahead of time about additional people that you're inviting. If the school doesn't suggest inviting an outside agency, please know that you can take the initiative to invite that agency or to ask the school to do the inviting. It's a good idea to verify who on the IEP team will be inviting adult agencies to IEP meetings, just so something doesn't fall through the cracks. So making sure you know who's going to be inviting, and remembering the difference between if you invite, you do not need to have this written notice. That doesn't need to happen. It's just nice if you let your school know that that person's invited. But if your school invites somebody, that needs to happen with that prior written notice. The student must be invited to the transition IEP meeting. They need to participate to the point that their interests and preferences are considered. If you see on the IEP document that a box titled "Not Needed" is checked, it may be because it's too early to determine if the student will need outside agency involvement, or it may mean that it's not likely that an outside agency will provide or pay for transition services based on eligibility criteria of the student. Always feel confident in asking the school about any question you have. If you see that box marked, definitely ask more information so that you understand why that's been marked. Students with disabilities must have access to school counselors for the purpose of planning, and they must be actively invited and included when appropriate in school activities which address course planning for both in-person and online classes, graduation and post-secondary education and employment. They should never be left out. Some of these activities may include participation in College Week, meetings regarding scholarship opportunities, taking the ACT, and exploring concurrent enrollment options. Remember, school counselors for the purpose of transition planning are not required team members, but they can be invited to the IEP meeting. They are counselors for all students and can provide services to students with disabilities as well. In a recent training from the Utah State Board of Education, the idea was presented to contact the lead teacher over CTE, which stands for Career and Technology Education. CTE is the practice of teaching specific career skills to students in middle school, high school, and post-secondary institutions. CTE teachers have expertise that could benefit in career exploration and help in setting employment goals. CTE teachers are not required to attend an IEP meeting, but if you feel their presence at the transition IEP would be valuable, they can be invited. Remember, the CTE teacher is a gen ed teacher and could fill that role in the IEP meeting. Students with disabilities who engage in a concentration of CTE courses in high school are more likely to be employed after high school than those students with few to no CTE courses. For further information, I direct you to an article that was shared in that presentation by USBE. And the article is entitled, How CTE Can Help Prepare Students with Disabilities for the Future by Christine Carrington-Powell. The Individuals with Disability Education Act, or IDEA, requires that parents and the student receive prior notice of the IEP meeting. If the student is an adult, 18 years of age or older, the notice of meeting must be addressed to the student, and then a separate one addressed to the parents, unless the parent has legal guardianship or power of attorney. When you receive the notice of meeting, check and make sure the date, time, and location are convenient for your schedule. Feel free to express the need to reschedule that time if needed. The notice of meeting invitation is sent to all of the team members. Team members that are asking to be excused need to write up information on goals for their section of the IEP. You can decide if you're okay with this team member asking to be excused. And if you're not, and if you'd rather arrange another time for a meeting, express that desire that you want to change that time so that team member can attend. Your student has had a section on his or her IEP called Present Levels of Academic Achievement and Functional Performance since the very first IEP, and this continues on the transition IEP. It's usually written as a summary in paragraph form and should describe how the disability affects involvement and progress in the general curriculum. It is based on age-appropriate evaluations and will now include transition assessments. But why are transition assessments even necessary? Well, it is the law. And it informs the IEP team of a student's strengths, preferences, interests, and needs regarding post-school goals in education, employment, and independent living. It also allows the student to understand their own strengths, interests, and needs. Transition assessments are important because they drive the student's post-secondary goals. I'm going to say that one more time. Transition assessments are important because they drive the student's post-secondary goals in education, training, employment, and independent living if appropriate. They also determine the student's transition services, the student's course of study, the annual transition IEP goals, as well as any involvement with outside agencies. They may even determine graduation and post-high options. And there are both informal as well as formal assessments. What would be considered informal would be interviews, questionnaires, direct observations, environmental situational assessments, and curriculum-based assessments. Formal assessments include adaptive behavior and daily living skills assessments, aptitude tests, intelligence tests, achievement tests, career employability tests, and self-determination assessments. Dr. Ed O'Leary has spent more than 40 years working in and with schools. He is a nationally recognized expert in the area of transition and has been invited to speak at numerous state and national conferences as a trainer with hundreds of local school districts. Here he gives some very wise advice and sense of direction. Begin with the end in mind. The IEP team needs to take a longitudinal view of where the student would like to end up and then build an IEP that will help them get there. One of my favorite tools that you can use from home is called Charting the Life Course. I have used this with my son who's 22, and it has been a very helpful and useful tool. You can go to their website. That's www.lifecoursetools.com, where you will see worksheets and a trajectory you can use with your youth to brainstorm how to fulfill his or her life goals. If you would like additional assistance, you can call the Utah Parent Center for guidance on how to fully use this amazing tool. Some of you may have heard of Utah Futures. Well, Utah Futures will be retired as of June 1st, 2020. Keys to Success will be taking its place. It will be a streamlined version of Utah Futures, and they're striving to make it a one-stop shop for career exploration. There is an exciting app that they are creating with built-in incentives for students to get on and explore. The app is going to be available statewide August of 2020. Another resource is Indeed.com, which is a job resource site. You can plug in disability-friendly jobs and explore employment options. Beyond public school goals they could include education and training at a four-year college or university, a technical college, a two-year college, the military, a church mission, a vocational or specific career training program, an apprenticeship, a paid or unpaid internship, on-the-job training, or a program such as Job Corps, which is a career technical training and education program for low-income young people ages 16 through 24. Goals for after public school could also include employment. Consider and explore things like the salary or wages, how competitive the job seeking may be, whether or not it could be supported, perhaps with using services from Voc Rehab. Please get Voc Rehab involved as early as you can. Remember, they can help students ages 14 through 24. Another option is that you could explore self-employment as well as working in a family business. There could also be independent living skill goals. These would include things like daily living as an adult, financial skills such as budgeting, transportation, community participation, self-advocacy skills, social skills, interpersonal skills, and assistive technology. The transition IEP needs to look at multiple year courses of study. They should be thinking about more than just the classes the student has taken or is currently taking. It should also include future classes. The IEP should contain a multi-year description of coursework from the student's current IEP to the anticipated exit year. It should be specific and individualized to the student and should take into account the student's preferences and interests. All these things should be linked to the post-secondary goals. It's a good thing to remember to have high expectations. Disabilities are not a prescription for failure. With the right kind of instruction, guidance, and support, there are no limits to what individuals with disabilities can achieve. Measurable post-secondary goals are outcomes that occur after the person has left the public school system. They tell what the student will do, where he or she will be enrolled or attending, where he or she will work, and so forth. Measurable descriptions should be used, such as full-time and part-time. Language in the goals should be similar to after high school, the student will, and then complete the sentence as determined. Goals can be broader to begin with and then refined and updated with each annual IEP as the student progresses. Sometimes goals in education and employment can be combined. but there does still need to be a separate post-secondary goal in the area of employment, because employment is a distinct activity from the areas related to training and education. The UPC has some suggestions for encouraging student participation, and you can find them on page 16 of the Transition Handbook. Studies have shown that individuals that advocate earlier in life have a greater successful trajectory after high school and into adult life. So here are some suggestions. You can establish the purpose and goals of the meeting with the student beforehand. You can have the student direct part of or the entire IEP meeting. You could ask the student relevant questions to discuss, such as regarding their career goals, training and education goals, independent living goals, strengths and weaknesses, learning styles, classroom accommodations, and skills to improve on. The student could present this information in the IEPT meeting. They could do it in a variety of ways. They could do it as a PowerPoint. They could pre-record a presentation. If objects would help them tell their stories, using a storyboard are all things that they could use to be able to communicate to the IEP team. It's a good idea to listen attentively and take notes. Give the student plenty of time to think and respond. This is crucial. Many of our students have issues with processing, and so slowing things down, taking time to let them to think and be able to respond is very important. Use the information the youth provides. Don't just discount it. You can help them develop an outline or an agenda for the IEP meeting, and you can summarize the student's goals and plans. Addressing the student and not the parent in the IEP is a simple way to make the student feel heard, important, and in control. This might be too much focus for the child to maintain, but attempting this will help the child feel like they are in the driver's seat versus just an observer. Start small and build. The point is that they're participating and they're self-advocating. This is a life skill that needs to be developing so that the student can continue to self-advocate and lead as independent a life as possible. Discuss with your student their ability to lead the IEP meeting. Encourage them to become a self-advocate. How can parents help to promote self-advocacy skills? Well, you can teach your youth about their disabilities, and you can help them understand any medical conditions that they have. You can help your youth describe his or her disabilities clearly and simply. You can have them identify strengths and interests and learning styles. You can help them know what accommodations they may need to be successful. You can help your youth communicate at his or her own level of ability. If needed, use a speech board or assistive technology. You can develop opportunities at home and in school for self-advocacy practice. You can encourage youth to speak to teachers when accommodations are needed. You can help them prepare ahead of time by planning what to say and making notes of key points to use. This can also be something that is done at school prior to the IEP meeting. And you can practice communication skills through role playing. One of the sheets that you can look on our website, utahparentscenter.org, is IEP tips for students that you could look at, which could also be very helpful. Age of majority. Well, the age of majority means that the rights transfer to the student at age 18 unless guardianship is awarded. Any notice from the school that is required by IDEA must be provided to both the student and the parents. A statement must be given to the parent and student by the time the student turns 17, and this is because the school has the responsibility of making sure that you're aware of the age of majority. Once they turn 18, unless the parent has guardianship, the adult student retains his or her adult rights. The parent no longer makes the decision or is in charge. This is a very broad topic, and we have detailed information on our website, again, at www.utahparentcenter.org, where you can locate guardianship under the resources tab. Here you can find information and resources on guardianship, as well as alternatives to guardianship. We have also developed other training that is more in-depth about guardianship and the alternatives to guardianship. We list the upcoming trainings on our events tab on our website. You can click on that workshop and register for any workshop you would like to attend. Anyone from any school can attend any event. For example, if you were to live in Granite School District, but you attend a charter school, you can attend that Granite School District workshop. We welcome all parents to any event. The student must satisfy the high school completion or graduation criteria consistent with the state and federal law and the student's IEP to graduate. IEP amendments may include substitutions and or exemptions made to accommodate the needs of the individual student if the student has a disability. The substitution must maintain the integrity and rigor expected for high school graduation. For example, you can't replace a math credit by taking an art class. These amendments need to be decided upon at the beginning of that school year. Districts have the right to decide whether they will allow amendments to high school graduation requirements. Now let's talk about graduation and leaving public education. Options for students. We'll be talking about regular high school diploma, alternative high school diploma, alternate high school diploma, certificate of completion, career development credential. High school diploma. A high school diploma will be awarded to a student in special education services who has satisfied high school completion or graduation criteria consistent with state and federal law and the student's IEP. The LEA, or the school, which is the LEA stands for Local Education Agency and is usually the principal of the school. If the student has met the graduation requirements, the LEA may not withhold a regular high school diploma from the student. Under the LEA's direction, the IEP team may amend graduation requirements and require that any amendments be documented in the IEP. Please note that there is an option to test out of required credits for students who have a high level of proficiency in a class that is being offered by the high school. This option may be good for students who do not want to continue attending high school, but are capable of receiving a typical high school diploma. This is an option for all high school students. This should be discussed as an IEP team. Earning a high school diploma terminates the young adult's right to a free, appropriate public education and is considered a change in placement, meaning the school is no longer meeting the needs of the student. You'll receive prior written notice documenting this if your child graduates with a diploma. Now let's talk about alternative high school diplomas. The alternative high school diploma is a reduced credit diploma issued by the state of Utah and is earned with 24 credits rather than the typical 27 credits. It can be a really good option for students who have fallen behind and still want to earn a diploma. This diploma ends FAPE, the Free Appropriate Public Education. You can ask the IEP team for more information. Now let's talk about alternate high school diploma. It can be confusing, alternate versus alternative. But the alternate high school diploma is for students with a significant cognitive disability who meets the requirements for participation in Utah's alternate assessment. It allows a student the opportunity to learn rigorous standards-based content through the essential elements, which are English, language arts, and math, and the extended core, which is science. This does not end FAPE, and the student has the option of continuing on to a post-high program where they could work on functional life skills as well as further academic skills. The certificate of completion, according to the school district or school criteria, a certificate of completion may be awarded to students who have completed their senior year, are exiting the school system, and they have not met all of the state or district requirements for a diploma. This does end FAPE. Excuse me, this does not end FAPE, but it would if the student ages out at 22. So excuse me, that it does not end FAPE. A career development credential is available to students with disabilities who are working towards a regular high school diploma or an alternate high school diploma. Prior to obtaining the credential, the student must have earned credit in core academic content areas. This credential requires 120 hours of community-based work experience and completion of a transition curriculum class or coursework. It also requires a half credit in an internship. The credential is earned as part of a diploma, and it helps direct the student's focus to career and work experience. This is an effort to further support students to be prepared for adulthood as they experience their transition services and supports in school. Ask your LEA or your school about the specifics of this program. This is another way that your student could get hands-on vocational training that would increase their successful trajectory after high school. Maximum age, aging out. If a student with a disability turns 22 anytime after July 1, the school, the LEA, the local education agency, must continue to provide FAPE until the end of that school year. Reaching maximum age 22 ends eligibility for a free appropriate public education. Under IDEA, an LEA must provide a student who is graduating with a regular high school diploma or exiting the school system at age 22 with a summary of the student's academic achievement and functional performance, which should include recommendations on how to assist the student in meeting his or her post-secondary goals. This summary of performance, also referred to as SOP, with the accompanying documentation, is important to assist the student in the transition from high school to higher education, training, and/or employment. The SOP must include the following: a summary of the student's academic achievement and functional performance. It must include a statement of the student's post-secondary goals with recommendations on how to assist the student in meeting them, and a statement of when and how accommodations were used for instruction and assessment. This summary of performance, or SOP, with the accompanying documentation is important to assist the student in transitioning from high school to higher education, training, and/or employment. The SOP contains key information about the student that can help in understanding what accommodations can be helpful in a post-secondary setting. It can also provide information useful to the student when disclosing a disability. We have some very exciting news. The Utah School Board of Education is working on creating a transition app that can be available to students, families, and educators during the transition process. The USBE website also has transition tools and information. The website is www.schools.utah.gov. And you can type in the word transition into the search bar to explore. If you need help resolving problems, contact the Utah Parent Center for a consultation. If you are part of the Charter School Coalition, please reach out so that we can help you in any way that you might need help. It's important to follow the chain of command, though. If you first start with the teacher or the special education teacher, the one that is dealing with your child the most, start there. Start at the lowest level. If the disagreement can't be resolved at this level, then move on to the next level, which would be maybe the special education director. Next would be the vice principal or principal. If you're still not satisfied, then the next step would be going to the state level. If you do reach this point, please contact the Utah Parent Center for guidance so that we can provide you with the proper chain of command at the state level. So what's next? Special education is an entitlement program that provides services to all qualified individuals. And as we've discussed tonight, parents are the advocates, spokespersons, and decision makers for their child until they turn 18 years of age. Adult service agencies are different. They are eligibility programs. A set of specific requirements determines whether an individual qualifies or not. All young people become legal adults at age 18. Young adults with disabilities are no exception. At 18 years of age, young adults with disabilities are legally responsible for making their own decisions, unless parents obtain guardianship. It's important to know that the IEP does not follow the student into adult services. There's so much a family can do to support the young adult. You can encourage your son or daughter to take the lead. You can clarify your expectations and participate as an equal on the team. You can strive to understand the services offered. Remember that without guardianship, they will want to address the young adult and not the parent. You can network with professionals and other parents. You can ask for a statement of rights and appeal procedures. You can become active on advisory boards. You can attend and participate in public comment meetings. And you can develop strategies and supports by yourself or with others that need the same services. You should have received this handbook. Well, you can receive this handbook. You can go on our website, utahparentcenter.org, and you can find this handbook there as a reference. Also, there were numbers on the right-hand side that had a little picture of a book, and it had a number. That is going to correspond with the page number in that transition handbook, so that if you want to receive more information, learn more, you can use that as a reference. What is available for young adults with disabilities after they have exited the public school system? There are many resources listed towards the end in this transition handbook in the appendix section. I'll give you a little bit more information about two of the common agencies. And we've talked about vocational rehabilitation, also known as voc rehab, before, but we're going to talk about that one, as well as the Independent Learning Center. For your student who is still in high school, the voc rehab offers PREETs, which are pre-employment transition skills, such as training on interview skills and job qualification skills. They can help with obtaining specific job skills or job training and education. They work with your student to overcome barriers to successful employment. A youth is typically found eligible for services if he has a significant physical or mental impairment that substantially impedes employment. The Utah Independent Living Center, they can offer skill development such as cooking, assertiveness, relationships, financial management and advocacy strategies through peer support, information, and referrals. For your transition-aged youth, they can help with life skills, time and money management, dating, shopping, community safety, working towards employment, general hygiene, and learning about public transportation. They also offer group activities, and we'll hopefully be able to start that up again in the very near future. On their website, you can locate your local office for the calendar. Utah Statewide Independent Living Council. Again, here's my contact information where you can contact me for any of your needs, anything that you're concerned about. Just give me a call and I would love to help in any way. We are always looking for ways to be able to give back more to the community, and that actually requires resources. And so if you have the ability to donate, we would so appreciate that. We are also going to be doing a art auction. So if you are an artist or know of an artist, all different kinds of crafts, woodworking, contact us, and that would be a really phenomenal way for you to be able to support the Utah Parent Center. Thank you for attending, and we are grateful that you took the time to listen to this presentation, and hopefully you've gleaned some really great ideas of how you can better support your young adult as they are making this big transition in life. Thank you.